people can't afford to go low carbon at the moment, and that's why they stick with gas, because it's cost effective. Electricity prices are high, and therefore we've got to make renewables competitive.
There's a seismic shift happening across the UK's energy system, a once-in-a-generation transition that's reshaping how we power, heat and future-proof our communities. And at the centre of it, district energy.
It is one of the best opportunities in Europe. I think it's about 3% of the UK heat is run off district energy. By 2050, that needs to be 20%.
So where exactly is the UK in its energy transition? Why has district energy suddenly moved from niche to national priority? And how is Network Plus positioning itself to lead the next wave of low-carbon infrastructure?
There are, I suppose in the business world you'd call it adjacencies, but there's a very similar skill set to installing these heat networks as there is for the rest of our business in water, gas and electricity.
In this episode, Kat O'Brien is joined by two people at the forefront of that change. Peter Emery, Non-Exec Chair of Network Plus, and Craig Freitas, the driving force behind our rapidly expanding district energy division. This is a conversation you'll definitely want to hear.
Peter, Craig, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you with us today.
Great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, really looking forward to it.
Great. So, Peter, I just want to ask you, what kind of drew you into the energy sector originally? You've seen so much change over the years, and what kind of brought you in initially?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I graduated in engineering in the mid-80s, which was not a great time to graduate as an engineer. So I wanted a career which had some stability and long-term outlook. And I thought energy was a pretty good bet. So I joined the energy sector in '84. I joined in Esso actually. I started in petrochemicals and petroleum, and I worked for them for 20 years. And it was really interesting. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Lots of challenges. And my final job there, I was running the refinery, which was a really interesting job. Lots of change, not always obvious to the public, changes in fuel specifications and all that sort of stuff. So lots of innovation, but almost below the radar as far as the public was concerned. And then I took up a role at Drax in Yorkshire, which is the largest power station in the UK. I took the job on as production director, and again, large operations, really interesting interface with the government and the low carbon challenges that we all face. So I really enjoyed my time at Drax. Again, lots of innovation, trying to make the plant more efficient, moving away from coal and introducing biomass. So a lot of engineering interest, really, as well as the commercial side of the business. And I worked there for 12 years, and then I moved to Electricity North West and was chief exec there for 6 or 7 years, which is where I first came across Network Plus, of course. But again, that was a low carbon challenge, trying to put infrastructure in place, again, innovation to try and enable the transition, really. So my whole career over 45 years has been fascinating, to be honest. The pace of change has always been there. Sometimes it's been really obvious to the public, sometimes less so. But I think where we are now, it's almost a challenge for everybody, the low carbon challenge, and I think that's what makes working in this sector so special, actually.
That's fantastic. I think it's really interesting for Craig to hear that. So Craig Freitas is with us today, and he is the head of commercial for District Energy. And that is our district heating and cooling division at Network Plus. So maybe you guys can discuss that. You can tell Peter about what you're doing in this space.
I mean, a lot less exciting journey mine than Peter's.
At the beginning.
Yeah, at the very beginning. I mean, I've kind of fell into the industry, to be honest. My background was through the commercial ranks of construction companies. So I've come up through university and my studies and through tier ones, small construction firms. I then went to consultant. So I was consultant for smaller companies. And then one of them companies took me on as a commercial director in the district heating field. And we kind of grew that company probably 15-fold in 4 years, which is is a great achievement. Been in talks of Network Plus now probably 2.5, 3 years. But by the time we actually came over, and then we came over to Network Plus in November 24. We're pretty much a year into it now, so it's been an exciting journey. Opens a lot more doors, obviously naturally coming to Network Plus, the size and scale and the amount of resource, etc. The doors it can open. So right now we're just trying to find our feet and see what direction we want to go in. Because as I said, we can go down a lot more avenues now.
And for novices like me, I'm sure Peter's well versed in district energy, but could you explain to the audience what it is and why we need it?
Yeah, $1 million question. So district heating. I mean, in its purest, simplest form, it is a network of insulated pipes going from an energy source and delivering to communities and buildings. I always try to form the analogy of, if you look at kind of human biology, the energy centre is the heart, that's creating the oxygen, etc. The veins and arteries, capillaries are the network, the pipes going underground from the energy centre to the properties. And then we've got the substations or the skids, which is your organs, which effectively being fed the oxygen. So it's kind of a three-pronged attack, really, district heating. And we do each segment of it. Kind of our bread and butter over the last couple of years is installing the networks. So it's digging the holes and putting the pipe in the ground, as well as the building connections, developing the skids, substations, etc. So that's been our bread and butter. We have designed and built some energy centres on a more temporary basis, but we are looking, especially being at Network Plus now with the size and scale, to really focus on trying to win some of them tenders and progress that, and then wherever else we go.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of opportunities there in the future. I'd quite like to talk about Electricity Northwest now. And do they look at this kind of energy? Is this something that would be...
It's not their core business, but the electrical infrastructure associated with certainly probably the generation end of it, where you generate the heat. There's always an interface with the network operator. I mean, in another role, I'm chairman of Infinium, which is an energy from waste business. So that basically incinerates black bag waste. It generates power, but it also produces quite a lot of heat. And so the waste heat from those plants we're now developing plans to use it in district heating schemes, particularly adjacent industrial complexes. So effectively, you can connect both the electricity and the heat to these industrial complexes, which means they're private wire, so they're low cost. You don't pay for transmission and network charges, which reduces the cost. And of course, the heat is waste heat, so it should be low cost. So Electricity Northwest would be involved in a project like that to help make sure that those connections are at the right capacity and are low cost.
Okay, all right then. So that's how the power companies play into it, but it can be its own kind of grid, and that's the selling point, isn't it? It's own grid.
I mean, that's what there's a multitude of different energy sources. I mean, that's a great example of trying to catch. Listen, this heat's getting wasted anyway. Let's capture it and put it into our systems. From that to heat pumps to there's a range of different energy generations that we can do for low carbon. So yeah, it's important that each of these industries, each of these companies talk to each other and see how we can do it and keep that conversation open and seeing what we can do. We've recently just done one for Network Plus in Newcastle, which is very similar kind of generation. So it's a medical waste incinerator. So it's all waste from hospitals or doctor surgeries, etc. that obviously we can't dispose of. So we incinerate it, capture the heat, and it's within an industrial unit. So we're now connecting to Hitachi for their rail manufacturing business. It's huge there. We've got a few different industrial properties around there that we're connecting to. So that's kind of the peak of what you want to do.
That's amazing.
Capture this waste anyway. So. Yeah,
that's fantastic. So are there other parts of the UK at the moment that you're looking into for projects?
Again, what Network Plus has been able to do is, the sheer size and scale of Network Plus. I think we've got over 80 different depots and offices around the country now in kind of major leading towns and cities. So it gives us the opportunity to go anywhere in kind of England, Wales, Scotland. We've always we're based up in Yorkshire, the actual previous firm, but we've always travelled. Our kind of home for the last 6 years was Bristol. We probably delivered 6 schemes in Bristol. Then organically grew to London. For selfish reasons, obviously, it'd be great to get some jobs up north. With the government now, there's all these new advanced zonings. So major local authorities are really trying these pilot schemes in the zones to be able to get these district heating schemes to fruition. So one of them's obviously Greater Manchester. There's probably 5 or 6 schemes within Greater Manchester. That would be a great one to be involved in, just again, purely selfish reasons. But, yeah, we're not precious. We work wherever we can, and we've got the resource and the scale now to be able to deliver the quality wherever we go.
Peter, why is now the right time for Network Plus to be getting into district energy?
I think the landscape is changing. I think that the government has just commissioned its own sort of position paper on energy and where it should be going. And 1 or 2 things in there sound very promising from a district heating perspective. So they're very positive about energy from waste, for instance, which and energy from waste is a good source of cheap energy, which is an ideal input for district heating schemes. So I think one thing that's important at a time of change is to have some political momentum behind it. And I think that the government paper, the way the government are very committed to green energy, means if, there's a high chance that district heating will start to move quickly. And I think that's why Network Plus needs to position itself to be able to take advantage of it. As Craig said earlier, we have got UK capability. The main thing with energy, with district heating systems, is a low-cost energy source, and that can take many forms, as Craig has said. So it's a good opportunity for us because we are UK wide. Wherever the opportunities are, we can do the job. And if you think about the work that we do, there are, I suppose in the business world you'd call it adjacencies, but there's a very similar skill set to installing these heat networks as there is for the rest of our business in water, gas and electricity. So for us it's not a big leap to do a lot of this work, at least in the installation. That the design side is a capability that we're building on. So for us we see it as a really good opportunity. We'll see what happens. As with all these things, you've got to keep an eye on what the governments say. But the key thing is low-cost energy sources, and if there are low-cost energy sources, we've got the capability to deliver.
I think just to kind of add to Peter's point, we're in kind of a pivotal moment now in district heating sector and where it's going to go. So we're on the cusp of regulations, kind of technical standards and compliance. So really on the cusp of this now. Being at Network Plus, who are experts working in the regulated section, and as Peter says, we've got so many synergies. I mean, I always say it's not sexy. We dig holes, we put pipe in the ground, and we backfill and reinstate. It's what Network Plus do. It's what we do. So the synergies are there to be able to just really build on that. We've got such transferable skills. One of the key questions we get asked is, we haven't got the people in the industry. We haven't got the resource. How are we gonna grow it? It's not really an issue that I see for us personally. At Network Plus, I think there's over 6,000 people working for us. So
6,500.
6,500. There you go.
And counting.
But I also think that we've got sectors there with it's transferable skills. It's not too different. We've got to get different accreditations and different certifications, etc. But they're all skills that we can develop our in-house teams. Naturally, as maybe the gas will decrease in future, the district heating may expand. There's really good opportunities of training.
Going on from that, why are we a safer bet than a smaller company that doesn't have this number of employees and this level of skills across the country?
I mean, I just think from quality construction, I mean, one of our USPs has always been, and trying to maintain that at Network Plus now, is try and do as much in-house as we can, just to maintain quality, consistency, etc. So our kind of specialist skilled resource are all in-house, from our welders to sleevers to commissioning experts, etc. If we can increase our team, obviously as the demand grows, it keeps that consistency and quality, and that's what we really want to aim for. As well as that, we've got the sector isn't well, the people within the sector, it's not very well known yet, and there's not that much knowledge and experience out there, because even though it's not a new technology as such, it's still a relatively new sector in the UK. So we've got the team here who have experience. We've installed, I don't know, maybe over 40 kilometres of pipe now, probably over 30, 40 different substations, etc., and building connections. So we've got the knowledge. We've learned a lot of mistakes. We're not going to be perfect. There's still going to be sort of mistakes to learn, but we feel like we've done all the initial hard graft on that. So we've took that. We come over to Network Plus. We've got the just the sheer scale and the different departments and the health and safety, etc. And combining them together, I think we're just really safe bet, and we're that safe pair of hands that the client can rely on that and what the client need in this industry.
That's great. I want to go back to talking about what we spoke about when we first met. It was district energy, and you were trying to explain it to me, and I was trying to get my head around it. And you said actually it's something that's really normal and well used in other countries in Northern Europe. And then when we spoke, Peter, you said you were actually on a board, was it a Finnish company?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
so let's talk about that. Why are we so behind, and why are these countries in Northern Europe so advanced in this area of renewable energy? What's holding us back?
Well, it's in this particular area, in Scandinavia, particularly Finland and Sweden and the Baltic states, which is where the company I'm on the board of, called Adven, operates. They've been doing this for quite a long time. They've got abundant biomass resources, and they tend to have big biomass facilities that burn the biomass, produce the heat, and then distribute it amongst local communities and industry. And they've been doing this for 20 years or so. So it's a sustainable business because it comes from the local forests in Finland and Sweden. They're all on a renewable cycle. It's low cost, and once you put the big cost is the capital cost putting it in.
Yeah.
And if you can get the cost of the heat low enough, and because their biomass is right on your doorstep, that's why it's been so successful. And they also haven't got access in many areas to cheap alternatives like gas, for instance, which has served the UK well for 30 or 40 years. So I think what's starting to happen now is obviously gas is not sustainable.
It's not cheap.
The price is volatile.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's cheap, sometimes it's very expensive. And we're looking for sustainable solutions. So that then opens the door for the technology that Craig's been talking about.
I think just to kind of touch base on the kind of opportunity we've got here in UK, it is one of the best opportunities in Europe, or the biggest opportunities in Europe to invest in district energy here. I mean, I think at current, I've heard different statistics, but I think it's about 3% of the UK heat is run off district energy. By 2050, that needs to be 20%. So they've got 100 billion they've got to spend by 2050. They've got to get from 3% to 20% to achieve all these net zero targets. So I think you can see the size and scale of the opportunity. I wish it was coming faster.
It just feels urgent, but it's not urgent enough.
Yeah, and I think that's the success of these Scandinavian countries. I think, as soon as the UK government treat this as a critical, urgent infrastructure, instead of just an afterthought, I think it'll be, it'll grow exponentially. It has to. It has to come. So it's just when. And I think it's coming. I think we're on the cusp. I think we saw, even though it's been relatively quiet year, I think these zones coming out in different areas and different funding, and the regulations, etc. I feel like it's a bit of a calm before the storm. I think kind of 2026 might be another slowish year, or certainly more tendering and more stuff. And I think 2027, 28, I think that's when it's really going to kick in, spade in the ground, and really see the enhanced development.
So I guess for now, until that happens, we're just building the foundations, getting the brand right, getting the service offering up to scratch, and just
that's exactly what
getting
we're trying
ready,
to do.
because it's going to be full pelt.
Exactly. It's would be stupid to not be prepared for it. We've got this time now to invest in our people, in our practices, in our systems, etc. So we've got this time now to really develop it, which we have been. So it's getting ready for the expansion, and hopefully Network Plus, in the position that we are and the size and scale, can really capture it and be that contractor of choice. That's the end goal anyway.
Sounds like a good goal.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of our size, which we touched on earlier, is the fact that the business is very well used to moving qualified resource from contract to contract.
Yeah.
We gain new contracts, we lose contracts, not many, but we do lose the odd one. And therefore having the resource available when the opportunity does land on Craig's desk that we want to really capitalise on, we've got resource that we can deploy pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah.
So that is a real strength for the business. And if there's a bit of a delay, then there's lots of other work that we're competing for that uses similar skill sets. So we almost de-risk the district heating business because of what we do in other sectors.
And we're just going to be agile when it comes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I see ourselves in a very unique position that I don't see anyone else in. You know, we've got just the synergies in Network Plus, as kind of alluding to before. We've got a lot of group companies with the same synergies. So, for instance, we've got GTM Traffic Management. So we own one of the UK's biggest traffic management companies. If we can't get better quality, more efficiency in cost, etc., then no one can. So we've got that. We've obviously got the EOS brand, where the environmental solutions, vegetation, biodiversity surveys, this kind of stuff we can all use in the pre-construction projects. So that's how we can try and position ourselves early.
Let's talk about that, because that's an interesting point actually, is ESP. I'm not sure if you're aware of this part of Network Plus, Peter. Environmental Solutions Plus. So it's an amalgamation of a couple of acquisitions, AC Landscapes, EOS, and I believe there was another one from many years ago. Anyway, so what they offer as a service to all our clients and contracts is really, really interesting. So it's just making sure that everybody's working compliantly with biodiversity standards, Natural England, all these things, these surveys that you need to do when you're digging holes to make sure that you're actually complying with regulations. So I don't think many other companies would have that in-house. That's something that you'd be outsourcing, and it'd be different across the region, really.
Of course. I mean, again, it's a USP for us. It opens up so many doors. As I was telling you before, we've naturally, as a kind of design and build contractor, have always been kind of the final bottom end of the food chain. You know, we have to wait for stuff to come. We really want to start getting ahead of the curve now. You know, we've got so much data. We've done so many different. Deliver so many schemes in different environments or with different variables, etc. We only get involved and show the clients, show the authorities this data, to show how much it actually costs, to show the actual risks, to show these kind of stuff. So with the EOS and the GTM, etc., that really helps us with planning, surveys, all this sort of stuff that other companies would have to outsource. We've got it. It sits in a desk opposite me. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I can approach them and stuff like that. And I think that's one thing that Network Plus are really doing well. It's not the companies they are acquiring, it's solving a problem and it's filling a gap that we don't have. So by doing all this, we don't have to really go anywhere. We can utilise the group for anything really, which is a really good USP.
It is, indeed. So Peter, going back to what we spoke about earlier, what do you think is really holding us back with this transition?
I think the UK's done a great job so far. We've made real progress, and if you look at many of the benchmarks versus Europe and elsewhere, we're doing well. But I think we've almost done the easy stuff actually, and I think it's obvious to us all that the government can't subsidise its way to 100% solution. It's just too costly. So I think there are really three things that are holding us back. The first thing is we haven't got all the answers to the technical problem. So a good example of that is lithium batteries for cars. They're expensive. They don't last too long. Lithium is hard to get. There's got to be a better low cost solution, right? And we're just waiting for that low cost solution. Another example would be heat pumps. We have to insulate houses a lot to make heat pumps effective because they're not generating hot enough water. So can we innovate in heat pumps to make the transition from gas central heating to heat pumps lower cost and less intrusive on your house? So there are some innovation gaps. I think that's holding us back. The other thing that's holding us back is it's got to be low cost. This comes back to the subsidy point really. People can't afford to go low carbon at the moment, many people, and that's why they stick with gas, because it's cost effective. Electricity prices are high, and therefore we've got to make renewables competitive. So that's back to more innovation. How do you make low carbon, lower cost and competitive versus the fossil alternative? Until we crack that, we will not get there. It's really as simple as that, and that's back to innovation. And I think the third area, which is great news for Network Plus, is we've also done the easy stuff, but now we need to put in infrastructure to move to the remaining part of the journey. And that's going to take 20 or 30 years to put the infrastructure in. And most of that is either electrical based, maybe some hydrogen, maybe carbon capture and storage, but predominantly electrical infrastructure. And that's what Network Plus is a specialist in. Beyond energy sustainability, you look at water. Water's the same. We've got to make water more sustainable. And that's all about treating sewage, sorting out surface water drainage. Again, that's an area where Network Plus, it's just, that is our bread and butter for our business.
It is.
So in many ways, the outlook looks very positive, because there's more work than probably we can cope with. And that gives us choices. And if it gives us choices, that's a really attractive future for everybody in the business.
Absolutely. I mean, Peter, in your time in the energy sector, you have seen the ESG agenda in companies become from a nice to have to a non-negotiable. So let's talk about that, and let's talk about the other companies that you sit on the board for and how they're tackling this change.
ESG, it's interesting. When ESG first came out, it caused a lot of raised eyebrows. It was predominantly driven by policymakers, and then started being driven by investors. And some companies were almost dragged kicking and screaming to do this. But that was 20 years ago. I mean, ESG is all about doing the right thing, both environmentally, both from a governance perspective, and the way you treat your people. And I think what's changed in the last 20 years is it's not just policymakers and investors that demand it now, it's our employees. And I think we've seen that in the last 10 years, which really means it is non-negotiable, because our employees expect it. And our senior leaders really are expected to deliver on it. And I think we have got a big responsibility to make that happen. And almost every business I've worked in, ESG has transitioned very much to business as usual. It's a core part of the business. It's how you should run a business. And I think since I've joined Network Plus earlier this year, seeing some of the weekly newsletters, the sort of things that we're covering, the diversity activity we've got across all ESG areas, is encouraging. And you can see we wouldn't be making the progress we are if the workforce weren't committed to it, because it's important to them. And I think, as more youngsters join the business, and as we grow, which we will do, we're going to have more and more youngsters, and their demands will be very clear.
ESG focused.
Correct. And if we want to be successful, then we've got to make sure we deliver on it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about inspiring the future workforce then, because we've gone on to that now naturally. And I think that's a really important point, because your area in Network Plus is probably very attractive to this new workforce that are coming in, because they really care about the environment and making a difference, and they want to join companies that are trying to do that. So how are you kind of looking into that? Are you looking at grad schemes? Are you...
Yeah, again, there's multiple different, to kind of touch base on what Peter said then. ESG from a wider perspective, a lot of our clients, it's a focal focus for them. If we can't do it in the industry we're in, from environmental, we're trying to cut carbon, as the principle of what we're doing, as well as what we're doing as a company, etc. From a social impact, obviously, we're working in communities, we're working in around public buildings, we're working around city centres, so we really need to make a big effort to make it work for the people who live there, and make sure it's a good place to be with the least impact and interruption, etc. So it is a focal point for us to work on this. Regards to the bringing new people to the industry, up until now it's been tough, because the size and scale of some of these schemes, they're sporadic. We're in a city I don't know, Newcastle for a year, then we're in London for a year. And so trying to get people to go through grad programs or sponsoring for universities, it's just geographically hard. And this is, getting on these bigger schemes now that we're tendering for and with these zones, etc. It really gives us a good opportunity to, develop people from that area and put them through as a career and on that path, whilst not having to, a lot of people don't want to travel these days. I can understand it, but it's nature of our work previously. But if we can avoid that and build these zones and be there for 5-10 years, it gives people a really good kickstart to a career. Network Plus are kind of second to none in what I've seen from regards to the apprenticeship programs, the grad schemes, the amount of support they're really giving to these people. I see it all the time. The intake of staff we're taking on, the people we sponsor now, we're trying to guide them down the right route, and it's really good at the minute.
So, Craig, talk to me about the different career options in district energy.
Again, alluding to kind of how we get people involved in the industry. District energy and what we're doing, it's not just digging a hole. It's, there's a multitude of different work areas that we can do. And obviously, again, being Network Plus really allows us to push for that. So again, we want to offer the life cycle of a project. We don't want to just, be the installer. We want to go through the feasibility, pre-construction, kind of help the client in that area. So at that point, you've got civil workers, we've got surveyors, we've got design teams, etc., that we're trying to build in-house capacity. We then go through to kind of spade in the ground principal contracting. So then we go down the route of professional roles in management, from project managers to planners to quantity surveyors, this kind of stuff. And then obviously the civils and specialisms of putting stuff in the ground, welders, sleevers, trades, right through to the kind of the end of the project. We want to do, we want to offer cradle to grave, so we want to do the commissioning, we want to do specialist engineers and commissioning engineers and mechanical and technical skill and abilities, right through to operation and maintenance. So we want to go from cradle to grave, right through the life cycle of a DH project. And we're going to need a lot of staff to do that. So that's the goal. But there's so many different opportunities, from a professional route to a trade to learning this kind of stuff. So I think we're going to support.
Brilliant. It sounds exciting. I'm sure a lot of people are really interested in it and would be considering it as a career in energy. And Peter, lastly, what advice would you give to somebody starting a career in energy?
I think the first thing to say, they're making a wise choice. As we've touched on throughout this discussion, I think the amount of work and the change over the next 30 years will have dwarfed what's happened over the last 30. So it's going to be a really interesting place to work, but probably more importantly, quite a secure place to work. Lots of opportunities in different sectors. We need a lot more generation. We need a lot more storage. We need new storage technology, stuff that we don't even know about. We need to put a lot of electrical infrastructure in place, both transmission and distribution. And also we come up with different ways to automate these systems. We did a lot of work when I was at Electricity North West in automation to make our existing assets work better. But we need to put a lot more in. So if you look at that broad spectrum of challenges, if you join the energy sector, you've got an opportunity to move around it over a 20 to 30 to 40 year career. A bit like I've done over the last 40 years. You move to where the challenges are and where the opportunities are. And I think the energy sector, if there's one area that's really going to be really busy and really interesting with lots of money going into it over the next 30 to 40 years, it's the energy sector.
The green energy sector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, there is only one, really, the green energy sector. What we're trying to do is slowly replace the fossil economy, and the fossil economy already, I think, are we at peak oil now? Has oil started to drop? It's going to be managing that decline, but doing it in a cost-effective way. So I think the energy sector now is about renewable energy, whilst gradually disengaging ourselves from fossil fuels. And the quicker we do that, the better. Yes,
absolutely, for everyone. Well, it's very exciting times. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes and where Network Plus goes in general. I think there's a lot of opportunities for us in the UK, so It's going to be
Further afield,
very
maybe.
exciting.
Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much, guys. It
Thanks
was
for
really
having us.
interesting to have you on today.
Yeah, that's been great. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, it's been a good discussion. Thanks for the opportunity.
No problem. Thanks for coming.
Cheers.